The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Pod at the Palace semi-live from Blue Ember Smokehouse here in Hot Springs, where had some technical difficulties, but we are here. So we are actually having to record because of some things that went on there. Appreciate everybody's patience. This is going to be rolling out on YouTube a little bit later, but for anybody who's here and wants to listen and has questions, they can fire away, and we got a decent little crowd here, so we're excited about that. But appreciate everybody being here. I'm Curtis Wilkerson, by the way, joined by Andrew Ellis of Inside Arkansas, and we just wrapped up the tip-off tour, the tip-off scrimmage over at Bank OZK Arena, where we got to see more of this Razorback team than we have up to this point by far. They played basically the equivalent of a full game there. So we're here to enjoy the vibes, enjoy some good barbecue, enjoy the atmosphere, and talk a little bit of ball. But first, Andrew, just what'd you make of the day?
It's been a very productive day in Hot Springs, man. I got to say, not that it's about us. It's not, but this has to be like a new record for people coming up to us and just being like, hey, love what y'all do. Love the show. We're standing in line for nachos. We end up making friends with all the people around us. That is cool. And again, it's not about us, but that is always nice to see. And we appreciate everybody that came out to Blue Ember, and Blue Ember, of course, for hosting us. But you're right, man. I went into the prime time at the Palace last week with very low expectations. And a lot of those low expectations were based on the tip-off tour event we went to last year in Pine Bluff, and how we didn't really get to see much actual basketball action. Not much you can really take from that. So this year, I kind of went into it just saying, hey, I'm here to have fun, not really expecting to see much. And so I feel like with primetime at the Palace and with what we saw today here in Hot Springs, they over-delivered, man. Like you said, it's pretty much a full game. We got to see our first look at maybe the starting lineup. The freshmen really showed out today. There's a lot to get into, and we will. But it was a great day. It was really productive. I'm glad we came down. I'm glad we made this work.
Yeah, it was a good time. Honestly, we didn't know what to expect. We were a little bit iffy about driving over. It's like, man, it's 3.5 hours, and prime time at the Palace was cool. It was right down the road from the crib, you know? So, if they're going to do the little three-point shootout and the all-star game type of scrimmage is going to be worth it, we kind of gambled. And as soon as John Calipari took the mic and he said, okay, we're going to play 3 20-minute halves. You guys are going to be the first ones to really see this team scrimmage. And I was thinking, great, here we go, man. But we kind of looked at each other right away and we're like, okay, they're really not going to play 3 20-minute halves right here. But they did play 2, and it was a really good time there. So for those who went to the event in Fayetteville and you saw, the Razorbacks were out there, it reminded me of an NBA All-Star game, right? Like they were purposely not playing defense. You want to see the dunks. You want to see the alley-oops. You want to get the crowd going. It's very casual, very light. They put in some work today. They got after it. They played hard. I wouldn't say it was game-level intensity, but it was up there. And so we have some more takeaways from that than we normally would. And I thought it was a really good turnout. I thought it was a cool event. I love that they come out here and do this. Last year we went to the one in Pine Bluff, and that was cool. We went to the one in Hot Springs this year. I love it, man. I love that arena. I know they do state championships and everything down there. So it was cool. They scrimmaged. I'm happy, but let's talk about it. Your number one takeaway from what we witnessed with today's action?
My number one takeaway, and there are many, by the way. There's a lot that you can learn. I mean, anytime we get to see these guys up close and personal and real action, there's a lot you can learn. And I liked what I saw from a lot of guys, but the big thing that jumps out, and it's the same thing that jumped out at me at primetime at the Palace, Arkansas has a couple alphas in this freshman class, and guys that we knew were going to be really good. You have 5-star talent, which Arkansas, weirdly enough, is no stranger to having. I mean, it's kind of become usual seeing big-time, highly touted freshmen come to Arkansas, and who knows where Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas will end up ranking. Also want to give some love to Isaiah Sealy, who I thought looked awesome out there today. Who knows how good those 2 lead guards will end up being and where they'll rank in the pecking order of best Cal freshman and best Arkansas freshman of all time. But those 2 dudes look ready, man. They do not look like, obviously it's a cliche to say, oh, he doesn't look like a freshman, doesn't act like a freshman. There's a little bit of maturity there. You can tell Malik Thomas, every time we see him, just has a sense of urgency about him, takes everything personal, really wants to show out, really wants to impress. I always think back to the Michael Jordan quote of, it's the first time someone in the crowd has ever seen you play, and so you got to make a good first impression. Malik Thomas takes that to heart, man. Every time we see him, he's playing like it's the most important game of his life. And Darius Acuff might not have that same intensity necessarily or that sense of urgency, but Acuff's a pro, man. You can tell he's just a mature kid, knows what his skill set is. He was a little bit more assertive offensively today, which I loved. And you combine that with Isaiah Sealy, who we both, I think, were very impressed with. I thought the big jumping takeaway for me was how good this freshman class is. I'm excited to see all 3 of those guys and how they end up shaking up this rotation.
Yeah, I don't know what the opposite of freshman orientation was, but that was today. Like they set the tone in this one, which was pretty impressive, man. Right away, so the first 20-minute scrimmage that they did, the red team was Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, Billy Richmond, Malik Ewan, and Trevin Brazil. And so it's like, okay, it's a pretty good team, but it's interesting that they're pairing the two freshmen together in the backcourt. And the white squad was DJ Wagner, Carter Knox, Nick Pringle, Isaiah Sealy, and Jaden Carletwa. And so I'm thinking, okay, like you got DJ and Carter there, you got Nick Pringle who's been to a Final Four. There's just a lot of experience on that other team, and but when you got a freshman backcourt, I was thinking, man, they might learn a thing or two. And honestly, early, like DJ Wagner was really impressive because he got an ISO on Acuff, drove it right by him to the rack. It's like, all right, freshman, I got something for you. A few possessions later, it was Malik Thomas. They took him right off the bounce, took him to the rim. I'm thinking, all right, so they're going to try to pick on these guys. That was not the case at all. And really, it was the two freshmen who were taking it to him. I think that was the best that Darius Acuff has looked at. To this point, and what have we seen? Like Pro Day and whatever that was in Fayetteville last week. But you're right. Like he was very assertive. He was strong going downhill. He was hunting his shot a little bit more, which was good to see. He was making threes. But I think what impressed me the most about him, and he's got to work on some things defensively, I just don't think anybody on this team can guard DJ Wagner, actually, like just keep him in front because like he picked Sealy's pocket. He had some deflections. He had some plays there. But the way he sees the floor and his vision as a point guard, because he wasn't even – some people were wondering, is this like your new age point guard who score first mentality and everything? He can dime it, man. He can dish it. He can knock out the assist. And he made some really, really high-level passes. Him and Malik Ewan seem to have a pretty good chemistry and flow there. And then Malik Thomas is your bucket. He's automatic. He can get a shot off whenever he wants to, whether it's a catch and shoot from three in the corner, transition. He'll do the heat check, and you don't even feel like it's a bad shot. Pulling up off the bounce, it looks like he's getting downhill, and even instead of getting into his floater, he'll pull up from like 12 to 15 feet and knock it down. I thought both of those guys looked awesome. And, you mentioned Isaiah Sealy. It's crazy how we went from wondering, okay, is he even going to play as a freshman to, he's probably like their next man up, and then to, he's probably back into the rotation, ninth man. Is he going to play like 6 to 8 minutes? Maybe he can play more. They're going to need him on the floor if he continues to do the things that we're seeing here. I love that he can knock down shots, but he's just so calm, cool, and collected with the basketball in his hands as a true freshman. He's a menace driving baseline. Like he took Billy Richmond, and we know how good of a defender Billy is, right off the bounce baseline, finished a tough runner through him, and then he got that steal. Maybe the highlight of the day. He gets a steal on the open floor, live action, and gets in transition and windmill dunks it. And I'm thinking, so this is the freshman? This is your ninth man? Yeah. Get big balls for the ninth man, okay?
Big balls, knock down some shots, and just look comfortable out there. Like none of these guys, and really of the even some of the big guys. I mean, Paolo got in there for a little bit. Elmir. Nobody really looked out of place. You didn't look at it and say, oh, you can tell Isaiah Sealy's the freshman here. Oh, Jaden Carletwa, you can tell he's kind of the 10th man here. I thought everybody kind of had their moments in this scrimmage, which was awesome. You mentioned Darius Acuff and kind of just his point guard mentality. Like he just really has a good feel for what he's doing on the court. Some great passing there. Maybe he turned the ball over. I'd have to really go back and look, which, by the way, we did have a lot of video. So if you missed that, there's about 11 minutes worth of highlights on our channel.
For those that were mad that we were late getting to this, you got your video. That's what you wanted to see the players play as opposed to our faces talking anyway. Okay,
exactly. We gave you the good stuff first. But I'd have to really go back and think about it. I mean, do you remember off the top of your head a Darius Acuff turnover? Maybe there was one. And maybe there was a Malik Thomas turnover, but you mentioned the freshman not being scared of that matchup against some older guards in Wagner and Carter Knox. And, of course, you knew they weren't going to be scared. But, I used the word alpha. I thought what was very interesting to me, Billy Richmond, like you said, was on that team with the two freshmen. Now, Billy Richmond, I know he played some point guard last year, not necessarily like the most offensive creator-minded guy. So I guess it's not a huge surprise to a lot of people, knowing how talented Acuff and Thomas are, that Billy would be deferring to those guys offensively. But to say that he deferred to them, Curtis, I feel like would be an understatement. I don't know if Billy Richmond touched the ball, and it wasn't because they were just hogging it. They were getting Trevin involved. They were getting Malik Ewan involved. There's a lot of freshmen that can come into college basketball and can get their own shot, maybe make a bucket here, knock down a shot, or you can create and set up for your teammates, or you can kind of be a good teammate and play some defense. You have to do all of it if you want to be one of these John Calipari freshmen that plays at a high level. We saw a little bit of all of that from all of those guys, from Darius Acuff and Malik Thomas specifically. I was really impressed with how they controlled the game. We mentioned earlier that this was not NBA All-Star level defense or All-Star game level defense where it's kind of just lackadaisical. But sometimes in these scrimmage settings, it can go the other way, and it's almost too regimented. Like they would be scrimmaging, and then after 12 seconds, he's blowing the whistle, yelling at someone. There was never any flow to it because it was kind of just half-court based. That's not where a lot of these guys shine. They had a nice balance today where they were playing defense, and we saw plenty of legitimate defensive plays, legitimate highlights there, but they were also getting up and down. And I think that's the one thing when I think about big takeaways from today, the pace that they were playing at today, one, I think is going to be the pace they want to play at. They want to get out and run. They want to play at a high level. And all these guys look comfortable doing it. And I thought there were some good defensive plays. It'd be one thing if they just got up and down and were scoring on each other at will. We saw some guys making some big plays in transition. Trevin had that crazy block on a 1-on-2.
Insane.
Or 2-on-1.
Very
where
athletic
he was the
play,
one,
yes.
ends up blocking the shot. Like, there was a lot of stuff there on both sides of the ball there. But I also thought everyone shined in this setting. Like, you can tell Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff like to play a fast tempo. DJ, you see how easy it is for him to get downhill when you're playing at this fast tempo. And so I thought it was encouraging, and it wouldn't have surprised me if it were completely lopsided offensively. But there were some nice defensive plays there, too.
Yeah, there really were. And, you mentioned the two freshmen, quote-unquote, freezing Billy out a little bit maybe, whatever. Sounds like a typical John Calipari team to me. You got a couple dynamic youngsters in your backcourt, man, and they're, hey, good luck getting some shots up otherwise. At least that's what BBN told us it would be like, right? But, yeah, that group of Acuff, Billy, Malik Ewan, and Malik Thomas and TB, they won in that half. 44-37 was the final score there. Big picture, like team-wise, I will say, they need to make some free throws, all right? Like, listen, we said that the vibes are going to be immaculate here. We weren't going to critique too much, but they missed a lot of free throws out there today. And I was getting ready to type into my notes like, they didn't shoot it as well as they did at primetime at the Palace. And if we kept the stats or anything, maybe they didn't, but they really started to knock down some threes. Like Darius Acuff hit multiple threes. Malik Thomas hit multiple threes. TB hit some. Yeah. Carter hit some a little bit later on. Jaden Carlette was a sniper. Isaiah Sealy was making some. So they eventually got it going there. This still doesn't strike me as a team that's going to be super high volume from three. It's not John Calipari's thing. That's not the style of offense that they run. But I do think they're going to be a better three-point shooting team overall. Main thing being all these guys are threats. But yeah, pretty much everybody besides Nick Pringle, who's going to be out there, and Billy, are threats to take and make a three. And the whole reason you think about that, like, yeah, it's math. A three is more than two, but you just don't want defenses to be able to pack the paint on you. As good as this team is at getting downhill, and I think they're a good enough shooting team to where teams are going to second guess trying to do that.
Yeah, and when they, by the way, I'm sure we'll get to the starter segment of this thing later.
Yeah.
But when they did go to that starting lineup, that was one thing I noticed is that you just look at the shot making. I know Malik Ewan, we don't really expect him to be a guy that's going to shoot 4 or 5 threes a game, but we know he's capable and can knock down those threes, and that's your center there. TB made a couple jumpers during that segment. He actually had a frustrating day shooting the ball, I'd say, TB, but he made some there at the end. Carter Knox, same kind of thing. Didn't light it up from outside, but he got downhill, made some buckets in the paint, and then knocked down that corner three at the end, which I thought was good. Acuff knocked down multiple spot-up jumpers, which Acuff's going to spend a lot of time.
That's a notable development.
He's spending a lot of time on the ball. DJ Wagner also knocked down at least 2 spot-up jumpers, and so all these guys kind of have to get used to creating their own shot, yes, setting up their teammates, yes, but like you said, you just need these guys to be threats. You need these guys to be ready to knock down those spot-up attempts, and so a lot of times we talk about, hey, can this guy shoot? And you maybe look at the numbers. A lot of times if you're getting the good looks, a lot of these guys are way better shooters when it's wide open in the corner. And so we saw a little bit of that today. I think the more this team gets used to playing with each other, the more they get used to where their spots on the floor they can operate, you're going to see a lot more of those comfortable shot attempts that we started to see towards the end of the scrimmage today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, folks, we're out here at Blue Ember Smokehouse, 801 Higdon Ferry Road in Hot Springs, one of 6 locations that they have here in the state of Arkansas. They're all over the place, right? In Rogers, Fort Smith, West Little Rock, Jonesboro, Texarkana. Stuff looks pretty good.
I was going to say, I waited as long as I could, but then during your last little segment there, I had to give me a little bit of these burn.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's ridiculous. It smells really, really good over here. I kind of want to wrap this up. That way we can eat, but we owe the people a little bit more here. I will say you ought to check out their they've got their holiday meals that you can like pre-order. That's a big deal. I think about Arkansas and Duke playing this Thanksgiving game, and I'm like, man, I'm not trying to cook. I spend the whole day in the kitchen. You know what I mean? So why not have somebody do it for you? You know what I'm saying? And so Blue Ember Smokehouse, they got a really cool deal right now. They've got you can get a turkey or ham. They've got all the fixings in the sides, right? Like macaroni and cheese, sweet potato casserole, you name it. You can get the whole spread, and then you can come pick it up from one of their locations on November 26th. It's all there for you. It's taken care of for you. Based on what we're dealing with right now, I'm strongly considering. I'm going to throw it by Michelle and see how she feels about it. But at any rate, So that was the first scrimmage. The second scrimmage, which, by the way, I want to point out, they were pressing a lot. And that's something that John Calipari said. And it's not just, we're going to pick up 94 feet, like one guy and turn them. No, like they were trying to trap. They were trying to create some turnovers out of that. That's a sign of a deeper team and a sign of a team that they think, you're long, athletic, you can create some havoc. That was cool. But the second scrimmage, the second 20-minute segment, this was really fascinating to me, Andrew, because they went with the group who we're all assuming are the starters, the group that John Calipari has kind of hinted at. He's really liked what he's seen from them. And it's been everybody's most predicted lineup of DJ Wagner, Darius Acuff, Carter Knox, Trevin Brazile, and Malik Ewan. That was the red squad. Well, then the white squad, you had Malik Thomas, Billy Richmond, Isaiah Sealy, Jaden Carletwa, and Nick Pringle. So it's like the bench mob and the role guys, and you don't really have a true point guard in that lineup. But it was the white team that took it to them. I mean, I got to say.
For the first, 14 minutes?
Oh, goodness,
man.
Their
ass.
And this happened during the pro day when they did this. I went back, and it was the same exact lineups. And I was like, I want to go back and chart the score when they were going live 5-on-5. And the B team, if you want to call them that, won that segment. It was like 9-7. It was like 8 possessions either way. But then, they played the full 20-minute half. And if it wasn't for some late subs, I would have to say that white group would have probably won. Not that the red group didn't look great, but they've got some things to work on there. One thing that really stood out two things that stood out to me. It doesn't matter whose team Malik Thomas is on. He is the alpha dog. And he was literally beating the quote-unquote starters by himself for the longest time there, which was ridiculous. The second part is I thought it was interesting because we were wondering how was this going to work. You've got Darius Acuff on ball for the most part, DJ Wagner off ball in that lineup. And so I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise, but you could go either way. We know DJ looked a lot better when he was back on the ball late in the season. Didn't know about that dynamic, but it looked okay today.
Yeah, it looked okay. It's very
they need to play together more.
Yeah, for sure. It's fascinating because this morning, if you had asked me what the starting 5 should be or what I expect it's going to be, I would have listed those same 5 players that started with the red squad there. If you had asked me after the first scrimmage, after seeing a lot of these guys and split up a little bit, hey, did you change your opinion? I would have said no. I would have said no, that's still the 5 guys. And I'm not ready to be like, okay, now I don't feel that way. But watching them play together, it's just a little bit different because like you said, that was the one that everyone who's really been paying attention and kind of just has their opinion of what these guys are and based on what they did at their previous schools, that would be the lineup you would suggest. And I'm not here to say that it's not, but it does just look a little bit different, and it's nice that we have a sample size to evaluate from that group. They also have something they can evaluate and move forward with. But you mentioned it, Malik Thomas. This offered a perfect opportunity, and he's the guy that's out of place, right? If you're going to look at that starting 5 and say, okay, what's missing here? You could kind of make your argument for Nick Pringle and say, okay, yeah, should maybe get him in there? Is that something? Maybe you want to go big on the wings. You want to have Billy in there. But really, it's Malik Thomas. That's the notable omission there that you would make the argument could get in there. And, of course, if he winds up being in that 6-man kind of role, he's going to finish a lot of games. But this offered a perfect opportunity for him to – you mentioned there's no lead guard on that team. It was him. It was the Malik Thomas show.
Yeah.
There was a point, Curtis, where the score was like 29-27, and I believe Malik Thomas had like 12 points. At least he had hit a couple threes, hit some floaters, had got to the free throw line, and he wasn't just chucking. He was actually pretty selective, but he was killing, man, and you could tell he took it personally. That's the thing we love about him, the competitiveness.
Exactly.
And not to say that he's like upset that he's not starting, but like he knows, he understands the stakes here. He understands what's at play. He also looks around at the guys around him. Not that is there anything wrong with Jaden Carletwa? Not that there's anything wrong with Isaiah Sealy or Billy Richmond for that matter. But Malik Thomas kind of looks at it and says, I'm going to have to ball out. If my group's going to finish with more points, I'm going to have to ball out. He did that. I thought it was really cool to see. And you're right, that white group really took it to him. And then at the end, you kind of figured some things out. They also had a lot of success attacking interior with Nick Pringle. That second group, that was a big part of their – I don't know how many putbacks he had in that segment. And so that's kind of as we're continuing to see what we still expect to be the starting 5, you start to see some of the things that they'll have to figure out as they work together and some of the ways that these other teams are going to be able to attack them a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought up Nick Pringle because it's weird that he was quietly one of the more impressive guys out there for me. He just knows his role and he plays it, man. He's a putback merchant. He absolutely is. Every time a shot goes up, that dude is on the rim trying to flush it. I love that. I love that energy. I think back to last year. First of all, I think back to Eric Musselman's time. And his teams are always long. Positional size was there. They're super athletic. They weren't great offensive rebounding teams. And it was frustrating because they missed so many threes. You think, man, you got a lot of opportunities to clean up the offensive glass, and you don't do that either. So they had a lot of success, but it was always something I didn't really understand. Like, if you know you're going to be missing shots, why aren't you attacking the glass a little bit harder? Last year with this Arkansas team, and we know like Big Z, maybe not really his thing. TB wasn't playing all that much, and Jonas was hurt. So like there's some built-in excuses there if you need those things. But going into the season, I remember we had Chuck Martin on a press conference, and he said, "Man, listen, our goal, we're trying to rebound 40% of our misses." I was like, "Well, dang, if you do that, you're going to be the number one offensive rebounding team in the country." Okay, well, and then they were at like, 26% by the end of the year? Wasn't a lot of it, and they didn't shoot well from threes. Like, you got to do one of the two. Well, they're going to be better at both of those things this year, and a big part of the offensive rebounding is going to be Nick Pringle. That dude absolutely gets after on the glass. He's going to have some putback dunks that are going to be posters, head-tapping guys. All those things are going to be there. And the other thing about him is guards driving, if he's in the pick-and-roll game, just throw it up there. He's going to go get it. Yeah. Kind of the way we feel about Trevin Brazile with the lobs. Nick Pringle's good for it. If you need somebody to just hang out in the dunker spot, stand there and just be ready to catch a basketball and flush it, he's there. He might wind up leading the team. He might lead the conference in dunks. It depends on how many minutes he plays. But that was impressive to me. Just a completely different style of player from like a Malik Ewan who he's very, very skilled. He's an underrated passer. Give him the ball and he can make a move and score. And he's just so effective in that way, but he's very casual in how he goes about his business. And you got Pringle, who's just athletic. He plays hard as hell. He's nasty on the backboards. I love that compliment that Arkansas has at the 5 between those two.
Yeah, because there's certainly going to be some matchups. Like you mentioned, Ewan, very skilled, offensive-minded center. Not necessarily the most imposing physically in terms of just that physicality. And Trevin, who by the way, you mentioned the rebounding. Trevin also had a ton of offensive rebounds today, keeping plays alive, was very active there. I mean, we didn't have numbers. We don't have the stat broadcast. But it seemed like he grabbed at least 3 or 4 offensive rebounds. And he's been a good rebounder throughout his career per minute. Even he's not the most physical guy in the world. So that compliment of Nick Pringle, there's going to be certain matchups where you really need a guy like that, where you got a team that's got a 7-footer that they're just forcing the ball into. Not that Trevin and Malik Ewan can't handle matchups like that, but sometimes you need a little bit of that reinforcement. And so I think it's going to be huge for Nick Pringle. There's going to be matchups that he's just going to absolutely thrive in. And overall, anytime you watch your team play against themselves, if a guy scores, you have to wonder, okay, does the guy defending him suck? Or, okay, now we're the score, it's a low-scoring game. Does that mean we can't shoot? Like, what's going on here? And so I look at today's results, and I'm like, okay, Nick Pringle had a lot of offensive rebounds against those guys. Does that mean there's something to worry about there with Trevin and Malik? I've felt all along that this is going to be a good rebounding team. I think it's going to be one of 40% offensive rebounds. I'll take it. But I do think they're going to be a good offense or a good rebounding team overall. And so I think once they start playing other competition, we'll start to really see the impacts of that. And you might realize, oh, TB's actually a 10-12 rebound type of guy. Malik Ewan rebounded the ball pretty well at Florida State. Obviously, Nick Pringle's a very physical guy, the most physical out of all of them. So I think there's a case to be made that this is going to be a much better rebounding team, which, as you know, when your season ends by getting out-rebounded by 1,000, certainly going to be a welcome thing for Razorback fans to see.
For sure. Speaking of rebounding, this is a good segue because I want to make sure we touch on kind of every player here because I know not a lot of people, unless you were there, you weren't able to really watch, but you could check out our video, the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel.
Like 11
Great
minutes,
work
man.
by Andrew there. I got to say, I think Carter Knox on the wing is going to be somebody who contributes to that rebounding.
Must love those guard
rebounders.
Oh,
my gosh, man. When Carter struggled early in the season, and I remember some of those games when Arkansas was really going through it, like against Georgia and Oklahoma. They were trying to get over that hump. And Carter really made his impact by just ducking his head, driving to the rim, being that car crash that John Calipari likes to say, and then getting after the offensive glass and getting putbacks or drawing fouls. He did quite a bit of that today, which I like to see from him, being a little bit more aggressive. By the way, he played. I know everybody saw him win the wrist brace yesterday, and we're like, really, dude? Like, are you serious? He played. He was out there the whole time. Shot was not falling early, and it almost looked like maybe he was favoring it a little bit. He did knock down a few threes a little bit later, so everybody relax. He also had multiple windmills.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that's just the team dunk that they're going to do because he had a baby one right after Isaiah Sealy did. Me and Andrew were looking at each other going like, all right, who did it better in this situation? We agreed it was Sealy. But a little bit later when Carter got one, he was like full extension windmill. Pretty athletic move by the man, I got to say. And I also point out there were multiple times where Carter would make a play, crashing the offensive glass, finishing above the rim. And I was like, damn, there's Nick Pringle again. And I think it's because Carter's put on some size, man. He looks good. He's athletic. He's strong. And they kind of have the same look. Now, Pringle's a few inches taller there. But I think it's a good thing if you're wanting a more aggressive, more assertive, more alpha type of Carter Knox, when you might mistake him from 50 feet away as, oh, that's your center who's crashing the glass like a madman.
Well, a lot of times when you have a prospect like Carter, who was on the NBA draft radar as a freshman, and now he's hoping to kind of up his stock as a sophomore, and he's one of the few guys who has an actual opportunity to do that. A lot of times fans think that means, oh, he's going to average twice as many points, which, by the way, Carter might actually do because he only averaged, like 7 or 8 points last year. His scoring is going to increase, but you're right, man. Like, I think there's a lot of ways Carter can round out his game and ways that there's already a good baseline skill set. Like, he was already showing off some of that physicality last year, showing off some of that mentality of being able to get downhill and make things happen. Was the Georgia game where he had like 12 rebounds?
Yeah.
Just like willing those putbacks into existence. I think he's going to continue to evolve in that way. And in college basketball, again, I'm talking about him as a prospect, but in college basketball, a guy like Carter Knox, who's 6'6", 6'7", 225, 230, really physical, you see guys like that play power forward, play small ball center sometime in college basketball. So it is going to be fascinating. These kind of weapons Arkansas might have in unique matchups against college teams. And then, of course, you've got the size and the depth in the front court that they just didn't really have last year to supplement it. It's a lot different when you look at a guy like Carter Knox and you're asking him, oh, man, could we get a few minutes of you out of the 4, rather than having Carter Knox playing out on the wing, where, like you said, he's going to be much bigger than most of the people he's playing. Same kind of goes for Billy Richmond, who's going to come off the bench and be a guy that plays a lot bigger than he actually is.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, let's keep going through these guys rapid fire here, and then I got an important question to ask you at the end, but I want to make sure we touch on everyone. We talked about DJ Wagner a little bit. What?
You said you wanted to touch on everyone. I'm sorry.
On everyone. You know what I'm saying?
You said you want to touch on everyone.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Okay, you got to keep me in line.
These are kids,
bit.
Curtis. I'm sorry.
We want to discuss every player, DJ Wagner being one of them. Sometimes I feel like you just kind of, not what you see is what you get. You know what to expect. Like, he's just so consistent with what you, and then you go through a half hour into a podcast and you haven't said too much about him. He's a better basketball player than he was last. Do we agree with that?
I agree with that 100%.
He seems a little bit more explosive, very confident, very comfortable, whether he's on ball or off ball. I do think that his shot looks noticeably better, and you want to see it continue to translate, but doesn't have as much of that hitch. I think the rotation is better. That's encouraging. Nobody can keep him in front. Like, he's going to get downhill. Hopefully he continues to become a better finisher from that standpoint, and he's a tenacious defender. Now, he had a hell of a time with Darius Acuff. I think everybody in the country is, but I think you've got a good one in DJ Wagner. I don't want to be accused of sleeping on him, because I think he's going to have a really good season.
I would be interested to see. I mean, we've mentioned it enough to now the point. I think we just should have taken stats. We should have just been keeping stats the whole time. I'd be interested to see what DJ Wagner's field goal percentage looked like. I feel like he was 7 of 11. Like, I don't remember him missing many shots. I know he took a couple threes, made one, missed one maybe. I don't remember. He didn't take a ton of jumpers. His shot selection was really good. He was getting downhill, which we know he likes to. He gets to the rim pretty much at will. I mean, there's not many people that stay in front of DJ Wagner. And in some games he finishes better than others. We'll like to see how that finishing kind of evolves in year 3. He's a little bit older, a little bit stronger. But I think the thing that I liked about DJ today is he knew exactly where he could get on the floor and knew what shots were available to him at all times. And maybe he even deferred to his teammates a little too much some of the early going. But I thought you just see a much better understanding. Is he a completely different guy physically? Probably not. The shot's going to be better. Is it a completely different shot package? Is he going to be taking different attempts? Probably not. He's just going to be doing a lot of the same things that you've been seeing DJ Wagner do. You mentioned not knowing what to expect and knowing what you're going to get out of him. He's going to do a lot of the same things. He's just going to do them more efficiently. He's just going to do them with more confidence, with more consistency. And for this Arkansas team that honestly is not looking for extra shot creation or extra anything crazy, they just need DJ Wagner to continue to be a better, older, more confident, more concise, more efficient version of himself. I felt like today he looked like that. I mean, he was awesome getting to the rim, kind of bullied Acuff defensively a little bit, like kind of felt, hey, I have a matchup here. I can get to the rim and finish on this guy. Let me find my shot. Let me make it happen. I love seeing that out of DJ.
Me too. And so actually, we'll get to the rest of the players here, but I want to ask that question now because I think this is a perfect time to do it. We talked about the different lineup combinations that they've tried. We know that one in particular that we've discussed that Cal seems to be intrigued with. Based on what we've seen, let's put together our starting lineup. Not, oh, this is what they need to do for this matchup or whatever, but just the 5 players at their positions who we feel like have stood out the most. Because I think it's going to be a different conversation than what we're likely to see or what are the combinations that they've tried.
So I know that, like, this is going to sound stupid, Curtis.
No, it's not.
I feel like they started the right lineup today. It's the lineup it's the obvious one. It's the one we've been talking about. We've all been kind of predicting it to be. I still feel that way. And I think Malik Thomas might be the best player on the team, Curtis. Let alone
he makes this so difficult.
He does make it difficult. He literally might be the best player on the team. I'm not saying that he is, but like an argument could certainly be made. I actually said to you, I was like, I think he might lead this team in scoring. Like, I'm saying he's not going to be in the starting lineup, and I still feel that way. I'm okay with the premise of him coming off the bench and being that flamethrower, instant offense, microwave. That's just, because especially with the way he plays, he only knows it's like one intense mode. I think that kind of fits him coming off the bench of a guy that doesn't need to settle in a little bit. Like, he's just going to come in and get 4 shots. I also think you mentioned DJ playing off the ball, DJ playing on the ball. What's that going to look like with him and Acuff? I think having Malik Thomas off the bench, who could, by the way, lead the offense and could be could fill in at point guard and do just fine there. I think it kind of sets up well for Darius Acuff to be that lead ball handler to start a game. And DJ's kind of playing off of him, and then you can maybe switch it where DJ maybe takes that on-ball role, and you have Malik Thomas coming in ready to chuck it. Like, I think that premise could work. I'm not going to argue too much. Like, anybody who hears what I said and says, actually, well, I think they should start Malik Thomas. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you too much.
That's what makes this so complicated and such a difficult question to answer, because I think that I still tend to agree with you. I've been going back and forth on it all afternoon, but if we were just to pick, the 5 best players that we've seen out there, Malik Thomas is one of them. Like, if it was that simple, he would fit into that lineup.
2 or 3, like,
absolutely,
easily.
Man. But if you look at it, it's Darius Acuff, he's got to be out there, and he was really, really impressive today. So sure, DJ Wagner, the most experienced returning guard in the SEC, he's averaged double figures in this league 2 years in a row. Like, coming off the bench, no way. You need that leadership out there. He's also your best perimeter defender, I think, in the backcourt. So you think about that. So it's like, okay, can you go 3 guards and you just go Acuff and DJ and Leak? Well, no, your first-round pick in Carter Knox is still here. You know what I mean? And so you keep trickling down. And I do think the most logical thing is, have Malik Thomas be that Super 6 man. He'll be like JD Notae, where he plays starter minutes or has starter value. But I do kind of like something you said there about the idea of he's just so overly competitive. Maybe it's a good thing for him to sit until the first media timeout, take a deep breath, get a feel for the atmosphere, and then come in and hit the ground running. He strikes me as the type of guy that might be a little bit too amped up early in a game and lose focus on a play or two. Settle in, watch it, get a feel for the game and your matchup, check in, and go crazy.
I like it. And, Curtis, I want to throw something your way, and this is on the spot a little bit here.
Okay.
Because you mentioned, are you going to just sit one of those lead guards? Or are you just going to play all the guards together and just go 4 guard or something crazy like that, have Carter at the 4? I wonder what the likelihood is. As much as we love this front court and we think they've improved like across the board, especially compared to last year, especially this time last year when Jonas Adu wasn't really available. It's night and day. I still think it's extremely possible that one of those guys between Trevin, Malik Ewan, and even Pringle to an extent, I mean, Pringle could definitely play the 5. I think it's possible they finish games with TB at the 5. Literally since he got on campus, I've been arguing for that, where I'm like, I think your closing lineup, your best lineup, should have TB at the 5. And I know there's going to be matchups where teams have a Twin Towers look where you're going to have 2 actual big men out there on the floor. I think there's a best, if you're doing what are our best 5 guys, if you're doing that, I don't know how you do that without taking one of the big men out of the game, honestly.
I know. I'm with you on that, man. And it's crazy because I think that's something that I would like to see too. And for me, it's like, which one of the 3 bigs would you have out there? Because if it's a situation where our closing lineup needs a stop and a rebound, I'm going Nick Pringle.
Yeah.
If it's we need a bucket, a scorer, I'm going Malik Ewan. And if it's, the versatility, kind of the total package, the different things you can do there, the experience, the spacing, it's Trevin Brazile. Maybe for me, it's like, you have that Noah machine or whatever. It's like, who shot the highest free throw percentage? Because they're all at like 60 to 65%. I don't know.
Why is Trevin not a good free throw shooter? Does anyone understand?
It makes zero sense to me. What was he, like 1 of 4 or something today out there? And this is also the same guy, mind you, that was a pick and roll ball handler and pulled up and knocked down a 3 like he was a point guard.
He took and made an off the dribble 3-point attempt as a 6'11" guy.
He's
That's
missing
unreal.
free throws. I just don't understand what are we doing here.
But by the end, like you said, and we all kind of understand this. There's just not every how you finish a game against Pacific is not going to be the same as how you finish against Alabama and how you finish against someone like Florida last year, who has these just big men, has this depth full of big men that you kind of have to match that. I like the fact that Arkansas has their options, but I think we do agree that the best 5 players does not include 2 or 3 of these big men out there.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Okay, last few guys here. We got to talk about them.
Yeah,
though.
we got to.
We need to give Jaden Carlett his flowers here.
We do.
We've been doing that a little bit more this week, but he does not look like, it's what we said while we were there today, Jaden Carlett does not look like the 10th man on a 9-man team.
No.
You know, like, is he as good as the other guys? No, he's not. Very, very, he's calm, and he's always in the right spots. And you don't notice him as a liability. If he's your 10th man, that means he's one of the guys on the teams in these scrimmages, and it's not like, oh, pick on that guy. Oh, you're on this, your team's losing. No, it's not like that at all. Like, there's not a huge drop-off when you're out there, and I think he understands his role. But I'm seeing him out there, and, you know, athletically, if he gets switched off on a DJ, he's going to get cooked. That's just the way it is. If you get switched onto a big, you're going to get worked out. That's just the way it is. But for the most part, he's in the right spots defensively. He's a good communicator. He's a ball mover. He knows how to run off screens. He knows how to set them. And if you hit him in a catch and shoot opportunity, he's going to knock down the 3. So I've got to give him a lot of credit as the 10th man. I feel bad, and we'll talk about Elmer and Paolo in a minute. But I was like, oh, yeah, one of those guys is going to be your 10th man. They're the next man up. And there would be conversations about this where I wouldn't even include Jaden. And he's not going to be in your rotation. But in terms of being a guy who you can turn to in these, like, get him in there in these blowouts or whatever, or in a pinch. He was the one last year that they had to go to, and he's a better player now than he was before. I think he deserves a lot of credit because this is a guy who was a no-star recruit. He didn't have a profile in these different recruiting sites, but he's a good, competent college basketball player, and I think it's a good thing that he's on the team.
Can really shoot the ball, which, you know, may sound simple, but it's like if you can make shots and you can get in position and be ready to catch the pass and knock down the shot and have someone closing out on you, maybe you only do it once a game, but it's like that's very effective. He is a perfectly adequate Division I high-level basketball player. Like, he just, like you said, it's not one of those things like, will Arkansas end up starting him? Hell no. Will they end up like having him a lot? No, because they have other guys to do that, but like it wouldn't be the end of the world. And other teams, like you said, will not look at him and be like, oh, we can really attack this, and we don't have to defend this guy. Like, you got to close out on him. He's going to knock down a shot.
Right.
I mean, listen, I love Billy Richmond. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to assess Billy's performance today and like try and make anything out of it. Billy's the man. We love Billy. Jaden and Isaiah Sealy were both substantially more effective on the basketball floor today 100%. Than Billy Richmond. Yeah. And it wasn't particularly close. And again, I don't care. I'm not saying this is a knock on Billy Richmond or like worried about him. But to your point about in these 5-on-5 settings with other very high-level basketball players, Isaiah Sealy and Jaden Carlett would just kind of fit right in. Like, they're just perfectly adequate, know how to get to their spots, know how to be in the right spot. And will they give up a bucket? Sure, but like, they're going to be in the right spot, know what to do, just look like an adult out there that you can play in an SEC game if you get in a pinch.
Yeah. Elmer and Paolo, who we believe is going to be redshirting, Elmer, who is not. They both played a decent amount out there. Like, they were coming off the bench, quote unquote, but
went at it for a second.
Yeah, hey, Elmer's average, big fella. Tries really hard, okay? He did have kind of a slick little post move and gave Paolo a bucket down there. He also almost killed Trevin. So
he did, although to be
fair, it wasn't Trevin's fault.
The coaches, I would say the coaches seem to be kind of frustrated with Elmer. He just simply pumped it.
He shot faked Trevin out of the gym, and Trevin jumped.
And then there was kind of a weird collision there. And then they had Billy Richmond come in and shoot the free throws for him. I was like, you couldn't even let Elmer stay in there to shoot the free throws. No, you're right. I mean, listen, Elmer's humongous. That's the thing that always jumps out at me. He's not the most fleet of foot at all. Paolo seems like he's the guy that has no idea where to be.
Yeah.
Freak athlete, though, man. There's some bounciness. There's some spray. I mean, he's long. Obviously not nearly as filled out as Elmer, but like, he's an imposing guy that like can really get up and down the floor.
He had a dunk in his minutes out there. Yeah. So no, Paolo's he's really explosive, athletically gifted, more skilled than probably people thought that he was. But yeah, it's a lot of information to process for him right now. It's a lot of new terminology, much more organized style of basketball. There's just a big learning curve there. I think if Paolo got to campus in the summer with everyone else, he'd look so much better right now than he does. But the combination of, having not been in the States that long, playing this type of basketball, and it's different than it is overseas, plus being 3 months behind everybody else, right, who already knows all these things. They're not going to slow down for you. You know what I mean? From that standpoint, I understand. And yeah, he needs to get stronger and everything like that. I still do believe he's got a very, very bright future.
Yeah,
I think
he's got a high ceiling.
He's got a high ceiling, much higher than what Elmer's is, although if Arkansas is in a pinch this year, it'll probably be Elmer who gets thrown in. If you got foul trouble, you got one with a rolled ankle and one in foul trouble, you need somebody. He will come in and get the most of his 5 fouls and probably grab a few rebounds.
Yeah, absolutely. and for Elmer, like you mentioned, just kind of is an adult out there, knows what to do, knows where to be. He will do it very slowly, but he will do it. And yeah, he's the guy that I wouldn't like be thrilled about it, but he's a guy that you can throw out there and is just a body that will take up space, can kind of hang around the rim and defend okay. Like I feel okay. I think that's a very good way to put it. That like Paolo, if you were looking for a guy that could maybe really develop into a real difference maker, it might be him. But Elmer does look like a guy. I mean, I always kind of feel bad for him when he's going in there because you kind of think, oh, if he's the 11th guy in a 10-man thing, like what's going on? But he's not very quick, but he's out there. He knows what he's doing, and he's super physical. I mean, he's 7 foot. What do they list him at? 7 foot?
7 foot 285 or something. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, he's massive.
Yeah, he's a big boy. Just a couple of final observations, and then we'll wrap it up here. Offensively, this team is going to be improved. I mean, I do not foresee this being one of those teams that has the 5, 6, 7 minute scoring droughts like we've seen the last couple of years. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of individual talent. And if things break down or they get stagnant, there are guys who can go get it, whether you're throwing it in the post to Ewan or letting Acuff or Leak or somebody cook. I think this team is going to be fine from a scoring standpoint. I liked the way the ball was moving and popping out there. There were a couple segments where, got a little bit sloppy, or when guys were getting tired, maybe the movement wasn't quite there. But for the most part, wasn't a whole lot of, once they settled in, miscommunications, and you're passing one way to a guy going another way. They weren't screwing a bunch of plays up, except at the very end when Cal got mad at him. And he drew up the play, and then he's like, no, do it again, because there was a deflection, which is kind of funny. But I was pretty pleased from that standpoint. Defensively, I'm not saying that they're going to take a huge step back or they're going to be a bad defensive team compared to what they were last year, which was top 20 in the country. But I do think there's some give and take. Like you, if you're going to take a step forward, and you have to get to the next level offensively, it might impact things a little bit on the defensive end of the floor. I will say, I think this roster is constructed to a way where you can put together a lineup, they can go get you a bunch of points and nobody's going to be able to guard you. And you can also put together a lineup where if you have DJ and you have Billy and you have Pringle and guys like that out there that could also really lock down. The question is, do you lean on one of those versus the other, or do you have like a combination of the two? And we'll see. I'm sure they'll tinker with the lineups all season.
Obviously, to be a really good basketball team at different stints of the season and different games, you're going to have to be good on both ends of the floor. Like, it's not a secret. It's not, we're really good on offense and we're bad on defense. We'll just make it work. You have to play well on both ends. But I got to say, like you said, the pace with the offense, if you're going to play at the pace that Arkansas is going to play at, it's not that you're punting on being a good defensive team. You're still going to try and play good defense. But if you're playing, they're going to get up and down the way that it seems like they're prepared to do. And we'll even incorporate some guarding full court and to make that happen to kind of speed the pace up. I don't think Arkansas is ever going to be built to be a team that's going to hold teams to 56 points and really hold teams to, really keep them out of the scoreboard completely. Like, they're not going to be like that, but they are going to play at a pace, and they're going to drag teams into these kind of slugfests up and down the court that I think they are more comfortable and more apt to play at than most teams in the country. And so, of course, when the game gets tight, you're going to have to be able to create some half-court looks. You're going to have to be able to get some stops in the half-court. I think also there's some of these guys that maybe play-to-play might not be elite defenders. Like, I wouldn't describe Trevin Brazil as an elite defender. Play-to-play, he might not have that consistency, but, there's a lot of versatility there. There's a lot of plays he's going to be able to make in transition, like the one he made today. Mm-hmm. There's a lot he can do. I think the same goes for guys like Carter Knox, guys like Billy Richmond, guys like DJ Wagner, and some of those guys are better, play-to-play. But if Arkansas is playing the style of basketball that they want to play, they're probably not going to be in the top 25 in the country defensively. And who knows? Maybe we'll just see a different version of them defensively when the season comes out. One thing we do know is I think that it's going back to like 19-something. You cannot win the national title if you do not have a top 10 offense in the country. It's just one of those things. And a lot of those teams also have good defenses. But I think for this Arkansas team, if they want to have a ceiling that we all want to believe they have, they're going to have to be elite offensively. Will they be elite defensively? Probably not, but I don't necessarily think that's as much of a requirement for this team in the way that they're going to play basketball than it is offensively.
Yeah, I'm with you. And hey, we appreciate everybody. Appreciate your patience, obviously. But we've had a great time out here at Blue Ember Smokehouse in Hot Springs. Really appreciate their hospitality and for having us out here. And thank you guys also. We didn't want to run the risk of the stream crashing and everything like that. We knew we could rifle off all of our thoughts right here and get it uploaded. That way you guys could all get it in one place. So apologies for that, but appreciate everybody for tuning in with us as always. But we're going to get out of here because we have a long drive home, and this coaching search and everything else ain't stopping for everybody. So we got to get back to it tomorrow. But for Andrew Ellis, been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pot the Palace. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you bright and early tomorrow.